So have you ever seen a film that you thought was not very good at all, but you revisit it many years later and realize it's not as bad as you initially thought it was? Well, for me, it's this 14-year-old sci-fi box office bomb starring James Spader and Angela Bassett called Supernova. In the farthest reaches of deep space, the medical vessel Nightingale responds to a distress signal with a near-fatal hyperspace dimensional jump into the gravitational pull of a dying star. The disabled ship rescues a shuttlecraft containing a mysterious survivor and a strange alien artifact. Now the crew must unravel a chilling secret and escape the nearby imploding star before the forming supernova blasts them and the entire galaxy into oblivion. So yes, in January of 2000, when this film was released, I went and saw it on opening weekend. On a weekend that ended up being extremely bad for me. A lot of bad things were happening, and this film did not help my disposition whatsoever. And it's easy to see on the surface how this film could turn out to be not very good at all. How the expectations would not be met on a lot of different levels. For one, the marketing for this film is not good at all. The trailer for this thing is cheesy. It's not well represented in this trailer. They use songs from Sugar Ray and Three Dog Night in the trailer, just reflecting this very hyper-action, cheesy sci-fi thing that just does not suit the tone and style of this film whatsoever. And this film had a lot of problems going on to it. The original director of this film, the guy who started shooting this film as the director, was Walter Hill, who's done a lot of great films over the years. And there were a lot of problems behind the scenes of this film where the film got taken away from him. They reshot things. They brought in Francis Ford Coppola to re-edit the whole film. This is studio interference all over the place, just destroying things left and right. There's a lot of deleted scenes, a lot of alternate stuff on the DVD for this film. You can see that there's a lot of tampering all over the place with the script and everything all over the place. There are people coming and going from this film for years and everything. This film just got dumped out in the middle of January because it's sort of just like, we got to get rid of this thing. And the $90 million budget returned to $14 million box office. It was a big, massive bomb that I'm sure is not getting anywhere near recouping its budget in all the years since its release. But you know what? Even though I thought this thing was not good at all, maybe it's because I had that bad weekend or whatever it was, I watched it again today, and this film is not a bad film. It's a mediocre film. It's nothing great. But Supernova is a fairly decent sci-fi thriller. First off, in contrast to that very hyper-action, B-movie, cheesy type of trailer they had for this film, Supernova actually has a nice, quiet, slow-building tone to it. I like it. Feels very sophisticated. It's not going for cheap, cheesy action or anything. It's not trying to build up an excitement or anything like that. It's going for a nice, slow, even tone throughout the film. And I like the nice, isolated, sparse feeling of this thing, that you really get the strong sense that these characters are out in the deepest corners of deep space. It has a great feeling to it that, these people are way out in the middle of nowhere where they cannot rely on anything else or not in contact with anyone else. It's just them in this situation alone, and it works towards the great mechanics of the story. And it has some decent tension too, that because it has that slow building feeling to it, even though it's only 90 minutes, it does work in that real good slow building type of way that the tension can really get into it a little bit here and there. And the $90 million budget really is on screen with this film, that you can see every penny of it, because one, the cinematography I very much liked. I like the nice high contrast moody visuals, the colorful look of it, the whole thing. It does have very good cinematography up to a certain point. I think there's a little too many Dutch angles in the film. They could have scaled back on that a little bit. A little too much handheld camera work in certain instances. It seems a little overshot in certain aspects. And because you have all this stuff with all the directorial issues of the film and Walter Hill actually disowning the whole film, putting a pseudonym on the film, the direction does seem kind of hollow. It doesn't seem like there's too much like a certain stamp of anything on here from one director or anything like that. But the acting in the film is very high quality. You got James Spader and Angela Bassett. You got Robert Forster in here for a little while. You got Robin Tunney and Lou Diamond Phillips. All those people put together really good acting efforts in this film. I think James Spader does a solid job. It is a standard type of Spader performance, everything you expect to see from him, but he brings that calm, cool, level-headed confidence to the role, that he doesn't fall into any kind of weird kind of genre tropes or anything of a regular sort of starship commander or anything, even though it's a medical vessel, whatever it is. He brings a nice complex quality to this character that has some drug problems in his past and everything. So there's subtle complexities to the character that Spader brings forth with a great deal of ease. And he's got good chemistry with Angela Bassett, who is always phenomenal in everything I see her in. She is such a strong, powerful acting talent, and she holds her own completely opposite Spader. Robin Tunney and Lou Diamond Phillips are a lot more supporting cast. Don't have too much to do, but they still do a very solid supporting cast job. I thought Peter Facinelli, who plays the villain of the film, could have been a little stronger casted, better actor chosen for the role. He gets on the verge of going over the top here and there. I wouldn't say he completely chews scenery. I'd say because he doesn't get too over the top, he keeps a little more low-key. I would say he kind of nibbles on the scenery a little bit here and there. It's kind of borderline being bad, but it's not really bad or whatnot. It could have been better in certain ways. But it kind of goes with how the role is written as a sort of obvious, creepy, devious, deceptive type of character, very shady and everything, slightly stereotypical of the genre, but it's fairly decent villain that can entertain you to a certain extent. But I mean, the screenplay isn't all that original. Steals kind of tropes from Alien or Aliens, this ship out in the middle of nowhere, responding to his distress call, landing on a planet and picking up a survivor or something like that, just as those typical genre tropes. But because the characters are very well written and to a certain extent, they got a lot of good stuff going on here with all the characters' interactions. And like Lou Diamond Phillips' character, he's kind of getting drawn into the power of this artifact and everything. He's getting kind of hooked on the power of it, and you got the relationship between Spader's character and Bassett's character, a little bit of romantic interest here and there. There's little things going on with the characters that make it a little more fleshed out than what you typically imagine. But yeah, it's not all that original in concept, but there's enough good stuff here to really aid the actors in the roles who are very well cast. Like I said, if you got a good strong cast, it can elevate the material, really prop the material up on a higher plane and make it a much more enjoyable, higher quality product than it really is. And in terms of that, back to the production quality of this film, the CGI really did impress me. That you think of like a big box office sci-fi bomb, you think that the effects would be shit and they'd be kind of cheap and everything. The digital visual effects in this film are extremely good. I really like the quality of these visual effects. They're very consistent, very high quality. There's nothing here that just jumps out and says, this is cheap or this is underdone. They took a lot of good time, put all that $90 million budget on the screen in this film. And I'm very much impressed by that, because there's still films today that look, they're $150 million, $200 million. You cannot understand where all this money is going to make these films, because it's just not on the screen. It's nice to see a sci-fi thriller that puts the money on the screen, that you get the production value, you get the good, very good looking sets, very good production design in this film. The CGI is very solid, very high quality. It very much impressed me on that level. Even though it's a fairly decent thriller, it's not a lot of stuff that really say, oh, jump out and say this is a great film or whatnot. It's a good way to kill 90 minutes, I think. Again, I think Spader's really solid in this film. There's a lot of good stuff from him and Bassett and a lot of the cast. Cast really does it for me on a lot of levels, because you got that nice slow building tone and tension, all that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time to get to know the characters, build that kind of stuff up, just kind of build the relationships and build something with the characters beyond just going for like a cheap action type of film and whatnot. It really takes the time to build things up in a certain way, and I very much appreciate that. And the ending of Supernova is a little flat, doesn't quite have as much punch or weight or payoff as you probably would want to have. And if it had a little bit of a stronger ending, it'd probably be a little bit more satisfying in that certain way. A good or bad ending really kind of makes or breaks a film in certain ways, that if you have a really strong ending, it really can make up for a lot of shortcomings in the film. But if it's a little weak, it leaves you a little bit more in the middle of the road. This is a bit of a cathartic experience, reviewing this film, watching it again, detaching it from that very bad experience I had 14 years ago seeing this film on opening weekend on a Sunday afternoon. This makes me feel better about this film in a lot of ways. I even bought the DVD. I was like, I don't know if I really want to pay to watch this film again, but now that I've watched it and reviewed it here, I'm very pleased that I've done so. I very much like that I went back, I watched this film, gave it another chance after all these years, and found it was not that bad of a film. It's a fairly decent, average type of sci-fi thriller with very good performances, very good production value. certain things here and there are not all that good. There's certain things could be better because it had so much studio interference and all that stuff of reshoots and recutting the film, a lot of stuff. I'm sure if you're watching, you probably can see that, but there's not a lot of inconsistency in the direction or the cinematography or anything. The quality of the film is very even, very consistent throughout. But like I said, it could be better in certain ways. But that's all I got for you for this review of this oddly box office bomb. There are a couple of films I would like to cover that have been big box office bombs to give myself and other people another chance to discover them in certain ways, because not always is a box office bomb technically a bad film. Sometimes, like with this film, the marketing is just a terrible pile of shit and just doesn't draw people in, or you dump it in January, where it is very notorious for being a dumping ground for some of the worst shit that's being released in theaters that year. But regardless of that, you'll see me next, hopefully with a little bit of Jack Ryan movie stuff going on. I still got to watch a couple more films in that series of films before the Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit reboot film is released later this year, so later this month. So hopefully I'll get around to watching Clear and Present Danger and The Sum of All Fears in good time, and so I can do some reviews for you. If not, just look forward to the review of Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit later this month. So again, what is your favorite sort of James Spader role? What you love about him, what you've seen about him, a Walter Hill film that you might enjoy that is possibly better than this, that didn't have as much problems as this, a Red Heat, 48 Hours, The Warriors, something like that. Throw it out there, let me know what you think, and if you've seen Supernova, what do you think about it? What did you think it was very, very bad like I did when I first saw it, or do you think it's a fairly decent film like I think now? So that's all I got for you right now, so I'll check you out later. And as always, comment, subscribe, share links around, and thanks very much, and take care.